We are live now, just like all the previous ones. Post Sir Alex Ferguson, Manchester United's transfer window seems to have all hallmarks of a club that is so poorly run, from missing all preferred targets to our rivals to now signing players on cynical contracts. How deep are the Glazers willing to sink this ship before all of us inside it drown? Welcome to the hotspot. My name is Webb. Subscribe to the channel because tonight is going to be a hot conversation as we do talk about Manchester United and all the issues concerning the biggest football club in the world and how its greedy owners have just sunk it so deep that right now you do not want to associate more so in this transfer window. Why? Because nothing is being done. Manchester United is losing out on all major targets we've had, all because of greedy owners who have not only made the wrong decisions for all the years they have been in charge, they have also failed to leave even when the money is there, even when the opportunity is there for them to leave and leave the club to people who can run it and take it to the right direction. So welcome aboard. We are here, we are live, we are going to be talking about all these Manchester United conversations, how the Glazers have failed us in our pursuit of our first options of players, because every player we talk about now, I think, turns into nothing. All players we point at disappear in ether. Why? Because of the Glazers, and we are going to be getting to understand why. And even in departure, even in their final days, they are willing to spoil one more thing for the club, because talk about players like Kim Min-jae headed to Bayern, players like Harry Kane. We can't even mention Harry Kane now because we do not have a proper plan to convince these players to join us. We have all the wrong people in the hands of the biggest football club in the world. The club is in the wrong hands. But how on earth are we going to move on from this? That's what we are going to be conversing. Guys, go on in the comment section and let's just get to dissect the Glazers and the situation at Manchester United together. Now, updates, as I do refer to the earlier, of course, updates I did give you from Fabrizio Romano concerning Manchester United and how players do not seem to trust the whole project at Manchester United, because clearly, like we all see it, it doesn't seem to be headed anywhere. Let me give you a bit of background, and I'm going to give you a proper background concerning Man United and how the Glazers have just spoiled everything. Now, remember, the latest update that is coming through now on concerning United is that Bayern is again now beginning to pick up interest in Rasmus Højlund. It's interesting that Bayern now doesn't even have a lot of work to do in terms of identifying their own players. Whichever players other clubs identify, they will jump at them and they'll come because they have better negotiators. They'll go on and get them. Guys, let me take you back in case you've forgotten. I want to take you back to the last summer, and just to show you how terrible our negotiators are. If you do recall, in the last summer, Manchester United for the first time had a director of football. A football director is still there, John Matter, and of course the CEO, Richard Arnold. These are the two guys whose job is to see through deals. So in a time like this is the proper perfect test for them, trying to test their football knowledge. Now, I remember in the first summer they had, the last summer, these guys spent the most part of that summer chasing Frankie de Jong. If you do recall, United was linked to Frankie de Jong for a long time. These guys spent more money on tickets flying around Europe to negotiate for a player who they eventually failed to sign. Look how they started making United something to laugh about. They failed terribly at him. They can't sign anyone now. I'm just building to how the Glazers have ruined Manchester United and why we are failing to land some of these players. Leave alone even the ownership issue. Even because the ownership issue has got nothing to do with some of the players we are failing to sign. Players like Kim Min-jae. The ownership issue would fail us in getting players like Harry Kane, who are so pricey, players like Victor Osimhen, players like Kylian Mbappe, because perhaps without the money from Sheikh Jassim, we can never afford those players if you are going to be within the financial fair play. But United has a budget. With the Glazers or not, with a sale or without a sale, United has a transfer budget that is going to that will only be boosted by Sheikh Jassim when he finally takes over the club. So the boost is what maybe can allow us to get the very expensive players. So leave alone that. Before that, we should be able to sign players like Kim Min-jae. But I'm trying to give you perspective of how bad the Glazers have handed our club to the wrong people. John Mata comes in as a director of football, and he spends the entire summer, last summer, chasing Frankie de Jong. They could not convince him. They failed terribly. I think became a laughing stock, I think, in the world of football. These two were always, loitering around Europe, in flights, flying go to Barcelona and to Catalonia and back, and they failed to sign Frankie de Jong. If you do recall, guys, if you don't remember who Frankie de Jong is, I'll get him for you. I'll get a photo of him for you just to refresh your mind about the player I'm talking about. This is the player who was so heavily linked to Manchester United. But because the Glazers put the club in the wrong people, and this is what I keep saying, that Manchester United has got very poor negotiators. This guy, we failed to sign him. Leave alone Frank de Jong. United was then in a very surprising and I think shocking, disrespectful manner. United was linked to Marko Arnautovic, if you do recall, a guy who played for Stoke City, then went on to keep traversing other clubs until he ended up in Bologna, where he is now. He was 33 at the time. Manchester United was linked to Marko Arnautovic. It was us, the fans, who made noise, and that deal was called off somehow. But John Mata and Richard Arnold were so serious in signing Marko Arnautovic. Arnautovic could have never been a United player. He can never, at 33 moreover, even when he was at his best at Stoke City, this guy was never good enough to play for United. Now, these are the guys who are handling transfers, guys. This is what I'm trying to tell you. How the Glazers have put our club in the hands of the wrong people. I've kept saying this, and people are asking me, why do I say we have very poor negotiators? Guy, it's clear. We simply have the worst negotiators. You do remember in that same summer, I think we got Christian Eriksen for free at that time, after them wasting a lot of time trying to chase Frank de Jong without any success, and of course trying to sign Arnautovic, which the fans routed and caused ruckus, and they dropped the interest. Then what happens next? Adrian Rabiot, if you do remember, the guy we are trying to get for free. For some reason, John Mata and his team have been fascinated about Adrian Rabiot. The last summer we were almost signing him, but his wage demands were, I think, what saved us, if I would call it that. Because we are saved by his wage demands. That's how we are saved, and we did not sign him. That's Adrian Rabiot. He was asking for crazy money because he's a character, for those who know him. So this is to show you how this man, John Mata, that's the man we're talking about, the football director at Manchester United, he's the man entrusted to handle transfers. So this is the guy failing to handle the transfers we're talking about. Now, just to show you how bad now this is, I mean, for a player like Kim Min-jae, United takes an early lead, clearly. And for me, this is where the problem is, because what we know is that what this guy did after a terrible summer, in the last summer where they failed to sign Frank de Jong and all, when Erik Ten Hag came in, what this guy did is almost transfer almost all their powers to Erik Ten Hag. Now, again, that's a huge problem. Well, Ten Hag did the right thing, identifies the players he wants who are good players, because I think in Ten Hag we trust in terms of identifying the players, because before these John Matters of this world and Richard Arnold, the CEOs, and before them Ed Woodward, were the ones identifying the players to sign. That's why United was signing players before even coaches. And Ed Woodward, remember, in his first summer transfer window, he spent the whole window chasing Sheikh Fabregas from Barcelona, which he failed at terribly. Again, lack of direction from the club. Blame it on who? The Glazers. So here we are now. I think after this, realizing that this football thing is not for them, whereas he's the director of football, that's John Mata, they transfer the powers of identifying the players and stuff to Erik Ten Hag. But remember, the coach Ten Hag is never going to be the one negotiating with the players. So Ten Hag identifies his good players, the Kim Min-jaes of this world, the Diogo Costas, name them, and these guys, the only thing they have to do, John Mata and Richard Arnold, the CEO, are to go and negotiate with these players, talk to the players, convince them, interest them in the project, and then take stable bids, and sign the players. Guess what happens? Boom. Bayern Munich comes in later because they have got better negotiators, better people to handle transfers. They go on and convince Kim Min-jae to look elsewhere. Arsenal goes ahead when it comes to Declan Rice. Again, showing you how terrible the people handling Manchester United are. And this is how deep they are willing to see. Now, imagine again, that's a classic example of the lack of direction, of leadership at Man United. How on earth, now, with all due respect, I do love Marcus Rashford. I do think he's one of our best players. I do think he had a brilliant season last season. No doubt, there are no qualms about Rashford. But how on earth do you go into a negotiation with a Marcus Rashford, who is not a Rasmus, rather, who is not a Erling Haaland, not a Kylian Mbappe, who is not one of the best players in the world by any means? How do you increase his wages from £100,000 per week, just under £100,000 per week, to £375,000 per week now, in a state when the club should be cutting down on their wage bill? Even when you want to reward Marcus Rashford and try to convince him to stay around, I'm sure they could have negotiated for better, because I don't think that was, a logical decision. Who allowed that? Now, what they are doing is they are pushing it to Ten Hag, obviously. I don't know whether it's Ten Hag who now handles, transfers and negotiations with players in terms of their wages. It's never like that. So probably Ten Hag just told them, because the reports that came through are saying that Ten Hag had a hand in giving Marcus Rashford those crazy wages, £375,000 per week. Now, for me, this is to show you how the whole Manchester United project is so sickening. There is no direction, leave alone the takeover. Even before that happens, the people that the Glazers have put in charge are not the right people, and they have never been the right people to handle such a critical period, even when United have got a good coach. And that's why we are saying the Glazers are failing Ten Hag's project, and they are going to fail the good manager. The fact is, Ten Hag has come, and in 12 months he has proven that he's a brilliant manager. But the owners and the people they have surrounded him with are going to fail him, even when now he's the one identifying players. Because think about all the players that Manchester United has been linked with. They are all good players. We all feel good about all these players. From the first choice, the first priorities we mentioned, the second, the third, and probably the fourth priorities. They are all good players, because certainly Ten Hag, being the good tactician he is, he identified the players and he knows which players he wants to play with. But the people who are supposed to do the other part and get the players to him now are the ones failing him, and these are people who are hired by the Glazers. So that's again how you cannot just look beyond the Glazers and how deep they have sunk this Manchester United ship, guys. I do want to pick your opinion about whatever is happening, and of course we are going to discuss maybe what could be the possible solution going forward, because for me, as it is now, things are not normal. They say when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. The tough get going. I do think we are at that stage where the going is getting tough, because the pressure now, we are about to have another terrible summer. Yet it started with a lot of expectation, excitement, a lot of oomph, a lot of vigor. We all were excited to see what was happening. One thing, you feel like what is going to happen, Man United is going to go bid for Mason Mount again, be ripped off, probably be forced into paying 55 again, because of even Chelsea, the other clubs, the poor negotiators we have, that is in John Mata and Richard Arnold. Certainly they will mishandle and get ripped off for Mason Mount. Maybe Rasmus Højlund, who now is beginning to attract the attention of other clubs, including Bayern, who have already snatched a key player for us in Kim Min-jae. So they could also again overprice. Already they are beginning to do that. They are saying he's rated at 86 million pounds, or then 60 million euros, still way above a player who has not even been starting games consistently for Atalanta. But because they know the United project is being run by very absolutely clueless people, guys are coming out there and doing everything to squeeze an extra dime from this whole Manchester United disorganization. And now for me, this £375,000 per week for Marcus Rashford is even just confirming what we already know. Confirming what I've been saying here, that the people running this club are the worst negotiators. Yet football and transfers, it's a business of negotiation. It's a business of negotiation. That's it. It's a business, so you've got to have the right negotiators, and that's why you would credit certain teams like Arsenal before and all, that they Arsene Wenger would negotiate with good players and somehow be able to convince them to stay around, but earning little money. You would think certain players would have been earning crazy wages elsewhere, but somehow Arsene Wenger and the team around him would convince them to stay and earning, little wages. Same with Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill. So for me, the whole Glazers and whatever they're doing as United is ruining everything. So again, before we even think about the money that will come in from Sheikh Jassim, the people right now with the window young and just starting, the people who are in charge of the club, because they certainly have a budget that is independent of whatever Sheikh Jassim will add to them. Right now, I would say what you might blame the owner, the lack of money from the new owner yet, is us failing to sign Harry Kane and Victor Osimhen, who are very expensive, valued at 150 million euros. We can never, under these circumstances, we can never buy those players. Kylian Mbappe, because of the financial fair play rule, we would never. But you see, even when the financial fair play rule is there, and these guys probably know that according to the Premier League handbook, the financial fair play and how it works. And that's what Chelsea, and you see a team that is properly run, that has people who know what to do in the right places, will know what to do and when to do it and when to make decisions. The reason why Chelsea is in a rush to sell certain players right now, they are selling player after player to Saudi Arabia and whoever comes asking, is because they know that by the 30th of June, and this is what the rules say, by the 30th of June, the financial fair play man is going to come knocking, and all the players they would have sold by then, the Koulibalys of this world, who they are believed to be cashing in on 25 million pounds to a Saudi Arabian club, the Eduardo Mendy's of this world, N'Golo Kante, all the players they are losing. The money they get right now is going to be part of their books for this for this financial year, because the year is closing on the 30th of June. So whichever money they build in now will be registered in their books. So they will be able to beat the financial fair play man when it comes. So meaning that's why they're in a rush. That's why you see Chelsea are selling players, and they are selling more, one player after the other, because they know they've spent a lot of money in the last window. There is no way Chelsea was going to be on the right side of the financial fair play if they did not sell players. But they have to sell players before the 1st of July. And they know it. And that's why they are making moves. Now, for Manchester United, you know that there is no clarity on when the ownership issue is going to be sorted and all. You know that you've got players, you've got a director of football, and this is when you should be working. You've got a director of football, you've got a CEO. Right now, they should be making decisions and perhaps approaching clubs, telling them, we want to buy certain players, we don't have enough money, maybe our budget is this small. I think United is believed to have a budget of around 120 million pounds or thereabout. Add on more. Start selling players like McTominay to Saudi Arabia and elsewhere. Try to milk some money in this period because you know the urgency. But again, like I said, the guys don't care. And that's how terrible this club is being run. And this is the biggest football club in the world that should be competing with the likes of Manchester City, with the likes of Arsenal, with the likes of Newcastle that is organizing themselves. In Europe, with the likes of Bayern Munich, with the likes of Barcelona, the Barcelona team that is signing one player after the other. Barcelona is clearly rebuilding, and they are so strategic. They refuse to take Ruben Neves. Neves is going to Saudi Arabia. Javi was clear, even when the board wanted to sign Neves, Javi was clear he's not getting Neves, he's not in his plans. So you see that they know what they are doing. But United are clueless. Yeah, the coach has come up with a proper plan, but the people who are supposed to execute the plan are clueless. They don't know what to do. And somehow, everyone is there. It's oblivion. There is nothing going on. You make a step and 10 steps back. Just when everyone is excited, United has approached players and convinced them on personal terms and all. Bayern Munich comes up because they have more organized people. Their project is more clear. They know how to sell it to a player. And before you know it, these players are looking elsewhere. So there is a bigger problem at Manchester United that has got to be solved. That the Glazers have ruined this club so deep that nothing can happen right now. Senog around and saying, good evening, bro. What happened to the Glazers to sell Man United or not to sell? Well, like I was saying, that the Glazers will sell Manchester United. They will have to sell Manchester United. I think there is no turning back from what they have done. I think the consequences would be so grave if they turn back from both parties, from both Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim, whoever, but also the fans. So for me, they will sell. And I think they have sold already. Like I keep saying that from the reports we've been gathering, from what we know, for me there is no doubt that the decision has already been made and the sale has been made. It's just pending the processes and confirmation and pronouncement, or it's just the Glazers trying to hold on to try and milk, an extra pound, a pound or two, until trying to get as close as they can to their valuation of the club and proper rip whoever Sheikh Jassim off and part away smiling. So for me, the Glazers want money, and Sheikh Jassim has the money. So there is no doubt, I have no doubt that they are going to be selling to Sheikh Jassim. But just for me, the emphasis is on how the whole situation, the lack of decision. Now, and when Fabrizio earlier on today, of course, was talking that live, that we had an exclusive, with him earlier on as members of the United Stand. Now, Fabrizio was saying that, and his body language would say it, that the the lack of decision at Manchester United by the Glazers is costing Manchester United a lot of players, and sadly this is hurting the fans. Yeah, these people are not fans of the club. They have left the club in the hands of the wrong people right now, because right now the Glazers are not probably so much involved in what's going on in terms of the transfers. This is the time when the football director and the CEO should be working their asses off. This is the time when they should be working every day, every minute. They should be working. This is the time they should be working, but they can't do anything. They can't convince a single player. They can't convince a South Korean footballer, Kim Min-jae, who should be honored to join Manchester United. They can't convince him to sign a contract. And Bayern Munich comes in late, arrives late, and somehow convinces them. And that's what happens. Here is where we are. So United has been run since Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill left the club. The club has been run by people who are completely clueless about football. That is why we are trapped in flights. These food directors of football are trapped in flights chasing Frankie de Jong, Marco Arnautovic, Adrian Rabiot, very non-Manchester United players. So you don't be surprised if we end up in a window where we only sign Mason Mount on a rip-off fee, and then we get Adrian Rabiot on a free, and maybe get a few loaned players. The way Ten Hag tried to manage last season. By the way, with what's happening at United, the rot at United, Ten Hag is a proper genius. I think we've got to give it up to him. He's a proper genius. He sat down and identified the right players Manchester United should be signing, handed them over, handed his list to the people who should be negotiating, but they are failing on one front after the other. They are not making moves. They have failed on Kim Min-jae. He's going to Bayern. They seem to be failing on Rasmus Højlund. They are now negotiating a contract extension for Marcus Rashford, but giving him crazy figures of money, more than triple what he's been earning. How do you explain it? That Marcus Rashford, good as he was, scored 30 goals in all competitions for Manchester United in the last season. How do you explain it? How do we even tell our children that Marcus Rashford deserves to earn £375,000 per week? It's absolutely, barbaric. It doesn't make sense. But that's surely because we've got the right people running the football club. So we are in a case where we've got the right manager, but everyone around him is not at his level. So the Glazers have set out to fail the manager, and now the people who are failing to do their job are pointing fingers at Ten Hag that he has a hand in the new salary Marcus Rashford is going to be earning. That doesn't make sense. It's not Ten Hag's job to negotiate player contracts. If it is happening, it is wrong. Then why do we have a football director and a CEO? Because they don't know what they have to do. Because what they did is recently they handed over, after a terrible last summer when Ten Hag came in, they handed over the mandate of handling transfers, and which is a good thing. But he identifies the players. What he has got to do as the coach, he's a tactician. He identifies the players, but the negotiations are supposed to be done by the director of football, or the football director. That's why he's there. That's why they were the ones flying around all over Europe, wasting money on tickets and failing eventually to sign Frankie de Jong, only for them to go wobbling and thinking of Arnautovic from Bologna. How do you even think of? And that's a classic example of how clueless the people running Manchester United are. So these are the people we are entrusting in a critical period like this, when everyone's expectation is so high that Manchester United should be signing right players to come next season and be able to go toe-to-toe with Manchester City. I think that is, I think we would only be naive to think that anything good would come out of these people. So that's how terrible. And the Glazers, for some reason, don't care. So that's why this gives Sheikh Jassim a huge job to do. I think when Sheikh Jassim finally takes over the club, he has got a long list of things to change about Manchester United. He has got so much work to do. He has got to change the people running the club. The structure of the club has got to change. He has got to bring in the right people to come in and support the manager, because if you have a good manager, the reason why Manchester United succeeded with Sir Alex Ferguson is because the manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, was working with a good CEO, a person who understands the game, that is David Gill. The reason why Arsene Wenger performed well at Arsenal is because he was working with Gold, I think David Gold. When you were working, when the manager and the chief are not at par, not at the same wavelength, are not at the same level, certainly the project will be stunted. It can't work. It cannot work, and that's the case. Whereas Erik Ten Hag is a brilliant manager, he identified the right players for Manchester United, but the people he's working with are not the right people to get him those players. So is he supposed to go out of his way and now start calling the players and making negotiations and calling clubs and tabling bids? That's not his job. But Ten Hag should be spending sleepless nights over the tactics on the pitch. He has probably been on holiday, but not on holiday, thinking, what are these guys doing? He's not seeing any deal being done. So there is a lot of mess at Manchester United, and I don't know what it's going to take to uproot it. But Sheikh Jassim has got a huge job to do, because there is a need for a complete overhaul of the whole Manchester United structure, a proper restart. Like I keep saying, we need to go back to the to square one, a proper restart. The beauty now is that we've got the right manager. We've got to entrust him with the authority to change things around. The way Arsenal did when Arsene Wenger came in, he was entrusted with the authority to change things around entirely. Sheikh Jassim, Sir Alex Ferguson, the same thing. When he joined Manchester United in '86, same thing. The same thing has got to be done by Manchester United. When Sheikh Jassim comes in, change everything around Erik Ten Hag, because we do know that he's the right manager. Entrust him to change everything around Manchester United. Otherwise, he's going to be a Ferrari, I think, sandwiched by, I don't know, starlets or useless cars. He cannot operate. Even you cannot work. It can't work. You cannot be a one-eyed man, or rather, one-eyed man among the blind. It can't work. Life doesn't work like that. So that's what's happening to Erik Ten Hag now. He's a one-eyed man among the blind. So he knows what he wants to do. He has presented it to his people, but they are failing him, terribly failing him. Yet he's expected, we the fans have hope in him, and we are expecting him to compete with Manchester City and the other teams, the likes of Arsenal and all the other clubs. And that's it can't happen. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately, in football. Football is a team sport, and the talk of the team for the manager, it's not just the technical team, because at a critical time like this in transfers, the manager relies a lot on the directors of football and the CEOs. Now, our people, that is John Matter and Richard Arnold respectively, are so clueless about what is supposed to be done. That's why they have never made a proper signing. I think the only one decent signing that was made was Casemiro, and I think that's it. That's the only decent signing that has been made in their times. I'm not even sure it was them who convinced Casemiro to join. Perhaps he also wanted to leave Real Madrid and stuff and go seek a new challenge in England. So there are lots of issues. So the Glazers, the failures, the disappointments at Man United should all be blamed on the Glazers, and that's the issue when you run a club as a business. The Glazers have grown the revenue of Manchester United in leaps and bounds, but they have killed the football of the club because they have failed to identify the right people who know how to run a football club, who know how critical a transfer window is, and who know how a transfer window should be handled and at what time. So we find ourselves in a situation where all our opponents are moving, they are making moves, they are progressing, but there is nothing we can do if we've got the wrong people at the top of the transfer window. I was seeing Luke Shaw, who was talking as England was training, at Old Trafford, because they are playing right now against North Macedonia at Trafford as I speak. So Luke Shaw was asked about the reports, Declan Rice and Harry Kane, because he was giving them a tour of the Carrington ground and the whole Manchester United facility, and uh, he was also, I think, his body language, if you read it, you would tell that he was also disappointed in the fact that United has failed to land Harry Kane and Declan Rice. He was also disappointed. You tell it. He said he can't lie. He actually said, he used the word "I can't lie." It would be a good thing for these players to be playing with us, but it's not up to me. But I mean, even the players don't seem to know what's going on. How exactly do you expect those players to have the mentality to go to the pitch and train and focus and think about the next season coming up, think about a preseason? This is going to be the most mentally draining preseason in the history of Manchester United, if not in the history of football, because everything at United is a mess, and it's all because of the Glazers and their lack of decisions, but also they are making the wrong decisions when it comes to the football at the club. So it's a whole lot of mess. There was joy when the position of football director was finally put at the club a few seasons ago, but again they hired the wrong person. That's John Mata. They hired the wrong person who has done nothing. Like I was telling you, for those who are just joining, these guys went around, wasting money on chasing De Jong in the last summer. They didn't get him. They are going to get Adrien Rabiot, and he wanted crazy wages. I think I'm surprised that they didn't even offer the wages, because they clearly could have. But anyway, United, you need to go. You need a goalkeeper. Senoga Ramazani is saying now. According to the latest reports coming through, it seems Erik Ten Hag is so interested in Andre Onana. He's still emerging as one goalkeeper that United can sign. But like I keep saying, whereas Onana wouldn't be my preferred option as a person, if Ten Hag wants him, it's okay. I want him, because in Ten Hag I believe, like I keep saying. But also, I think he's worked with him before, so probably that's again another advantage. But I also know that Manchester United really never gets it wrong with goalkeepers. Of course, people have made mention of Tim Coward and what was his name, Carroll. I think Roy Carroll in the past years, but I wouldn't really dwell so much on those. I don't think generally, by and large, United does get it wrong with goalkeepers. So whichever goalkeeper who will come in, I think will make sense. But I do believe we do have money to spend, but we do not have the right people to spend it. We do not have the right people to convince players to join us. So we might end up signing one or two desperate, making one or two desperate signings, and well, get into a season when we are again back to square one, trying to chase Man City, Arsenal, and all the other clubs that will have reorganized themselves earlier and in time, and made the right decisions at the right time. So that's the precarious situation we are finding ourselves in as Manchester United. Guys, go on and jot or drop into the comment section. Of course, do smash subscribe if you haven't, guys. It's so important. We made 1,000 subscriptions, I think yesterday, guys. We are now on the road to 2,000. Guys, please, let's do this together. We are just growing this community of Manchester United supporters as we do try to get to talk about our beloved club, get to understand how the new season will be. The fixtures are out, remember, but I think right now it's early days for us to concentrate on the fixtures when you don't know the players who are going to be playing those games. So I think it is only right that we focus on the team and also the news that is coming through. So the news latest, just to give it to you, from of course, earlier today it was reported that David De Gea wants to start Manchester United. It is the club that is delaying him in terms of agreeing terms, but as it looks now, it seems Erik Ten Hag is not sure he wants to keep David De Gea. The players too seem to be surprised that the whole David De Gea situation has not been sorted, but it is a sign that Ten Hag wants to first get a proper solution and option. That's why United is being linked to all forms of goalkeepers right now. But it's because Ten Hag wants to get the right solution and then decide on whether to keep David De Gea or not. But what we know is that Ten Hag decided that David De Gea is not going to be a guaranteed number one for England. Well, Manchester United, of course, an update for you right now. Marcus Rashford, the man who is soon going to be signing a contract to become the best paid player at Manchester United, has just scored for Manchester United in their, rather for England in their game against North Macedonia, that is in the Euro qualification. Marcus Rashford has just scored a goal for England as we speak right now. This is not supposed to justify his £375,000 per week. I still think it's too much. It was rushed. I think it was not again well negotiated. That's what I think. But yeah, they have just scored. He has just scored one. Of course, Harry Kane had scored the first one in the 29th minute. Bukayo Saka the second in the 38th minute. And at the stroke of half-time, Marcus Rashford has made it 3. So England is leading North Macedonia by 3-0 as they go into the break in that Euro qualification game that's going on now. So, guys, we always do watch alongs here, by the way, mostly for Manchester United games. So in case you don't know that, we just be here and watching Manchester United games together from wherever you are as we keep talking about what's happening. But right now the hot thing is the transfers concerning Manchester United. De Gea is waiting for the club to finalize. It's the club delaying his whole decision for him. He has made up his mind that he wants to stay at Manchester United for a year or two before he thinks about going to Saudi Arabia, even if they are so interested in him. So what do you think about that? Should De Gea stay? Of course, with the emerging players linked to Manchester United, the likes of Jordan Pickford, not so many United supporters are excited about the idea of Pickford coming through to replace David De Gea. I personally think right now United needs a fresh person in between the sticks. So for me, I wouldn't mind Jonathan Pickford. He's an England #1. He's certainly in goal as we do speak now. So for me, I wouldn't mind him. I don't think he's the worst goalkeeper. He wouldn't be England #1 when Ramsdale is there. I think he would be a decent addition to the club. Is he an improvement on De Gea? Certainly, he's never better than David De Gea. But I think the mental aspect of it is what people overlook now. I think David De Gea mentally is not supposed to start United for his own mentality, and mentality is so important. If you're going to concentrate and play, you saw the second goal in the FA Cup final. That was a mental, error. He wasn't concentrating at all on the game. He wasn't concentrating on the game, not at even the first goal. Whereas you won't take away anything from the scorer, that is Ilke Gundogan. I don't think David De Gea was concentrating. So I think the mentality is a huge factor in this one. Ouma Moses is saying, Neymar and Ken, whom do you prefer? Okay. Interesting. I think by far United's problem is not a creative player. I don't think that's the problem. I think Harry Kane is a finisher. United needs a striker, a world-class striker. Neymar is not that. So for me, between those two, I would go for Harry Kane for certainly. But like I said, if that is going to happen, Manchester United has got to get more money from Sheikh Jassim. But in the circumstances we are in now, our budget wouldn't allow us to buy Kane because he's one of the more very expensive players. But by the way, there is an interesting story that Sir Alex Ferguson said it years before about dealing with Daniel Levy. That's the chairman of Tottenham Hotspur. Ferguson said one time that dealing with Daniel Levy is more painful than having your hip replaced. So that's why even Man United got frustrated with Kane, because they registered their interest in the player, but they were not getting any communication from Daniel Levy. But that's how bad. And Sir Alex Ferguson mentioned this years ago, that dealing with Daniel Levy is more painful than having your hip replaced. So Daniel Levy is not an easy person. That's why Kane is a player that United, I think, for their own mental health, Ten Hag said, let's move on from Harry Kane. For me, if they moved on from Harry Kane and signed Victor Osimhen, I would be happy, because for me, in any case, I feel like Victor Osimhen should be our first priority because he's younger and he's fresh, he's more hungry and all. Of course, Harry Kane is hungry to score goals, but he's 30. At 30 years, you need 2 years for a striker to burn out. I don't think we need a short-term solution to our long-term problems. You don't solve long-term problems with short-term solutions. The problems you've had as United have been so long. They have been so long. They have been growing and brewing for years. Even now, they are still there. Like I spoke about the owner, the football director, John Mata, and the CEO, Richard Arnold, who know nothing to do in terms of convincing a player to join United. So we have bigger problems than getting, an expensive 30-year-old striker to come and solve problems for one season, and then what after that? Madiak Dak is saying these Glazers are giving me headache every day. Even I feel like to stop following Man United news. Yeah, man, I know, man, but mental health is key. But this is why we love the game, guys. This is why we love the game. Let's not, lose the faith and trust in our club. I think we've got, this is the time. These are the hard times they talk about in football, that the fans have got to rally behind the club. I love the fact that whenever I check on Twitter, the most trending hashtag is the Glazers out. And let me check even one more time right now as I speak. I think it should be the most trending hashtag on Twitter. Glazers out. Some people even want, actually, the hashtag is, of course, Man United, and there was one saying the Glazers should burn in hell. Well, that is too much. I think that is taking it way too far. But yeah, that's how tired people are of the Glazers. But they won't care, guys. They won't care, would they? All they care about is squeezing as much money as they can from Sheikh Jassim or from the highest bidder. And sure, without a doubt, they are almost achieving what they have always wanted. Yes, so that's the situation we are in as Manchester United. We are at a very difficult state. Wrong hands are in charge of the team now in a critical time of transfers. No players can join us right now because there is no trusted person to go and negotiate players. I feel like we got to reach a point where I think Erik Ten Hag should pick up the phone and make the calls himself, because certain players should be excited to play under Ten Hag than whoever Bayern coaches and whichever bodies. I don't know even their names. Frank Stallion saying, to my side, it's not good to let a legend like David De Gea go in such a way. At least we would have triggered his contract, and later we say goodbye to him in a good way. Here is the thing, Franklin. The truth is, David De Gea is a legend at Manchester United, and I think I have not heard a single Manchester United supporter who doesn't love David De Gea. The situation that David De Gea is getting himself into is, I think, like I said, he's getting himself into this situation. In all honesty, and again, blame the people who negotiated his contract, because David De Gea's contract says that for as long as he's fit, he's supposed to be starting games. Now, how do you negotiate a contract, such a contract with a player, that you're guaranteed starting games for as long as you're healthy? I think players should earn their start. We've had good goalkeepers rotting on the bench, Sergio Romero, because of David De Gea's contract. Do I blame him for his contract? No, I blame whoever offered the contract. But they are telling him now that, yes, you've been in between the sticks. You've started every game for Manchester United. I would struggle to recall a game David De Gea did not start last season for Manchester United, be it in the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, and name them. Even pre-friendly games, what have you. I would struggle to recall a game David De Gea did not start for Manchester United. If it was there, it was one or two. Now, the fact is, because he had a contract, and we respect that. But let's be honest, and De Gea has got to be honest to himself. He's no longer that player. He's no longer that player. He's no longer that player. Now, he does not, at a time when Manchester United is trying to cut down on the salaries and trying to manage their finances and all. David De Gea should understand that he is not worth £375,000 per week like he was years ago. He is not. Now, that is what Ten Hag is saying, that first of all, you need to take a pay cut, but also we need to change. Your contract cannot be the same. They are saying you cannot be guaranteed a first team place, a starting place anymore, because you're not there. You're not there again. When he joined at 21, he was up there. He was good enough. That maybe the contract made sense at that time because he was young and he was so good. But after 12 or 11 years later, he's not. So they are telling him, cut down on your terms. They are telling him, we cut your wages from £375,000 per week to £200,000 per week, which I still feel is on the higher side. But again, that's respect for a legend. And he's saying he's dilly-dallying. He's going back and forth. So we are not going to. Ten Hag has got huge problems to worry about. He's not going to spend the whole, transfer window negotiating with David De Gea because he's a club legend. I mean, he's respected, he's a legend, but I think he has got to be realistic. At some time, you've got to be realistic, even as a legend. You've got to be realistic about the situation. The situation right now is that David De Gea is not good enough to earn £375,000 per week. Even £200,000 per week he's no longer in the. Luis Enrique dropped him. From Spain, from the Spain squad. They just won the Nations League. They are first. He was not there. That's to show you that the truth is, you know, yes, whereas he has saved United games, and because he was the only one who was there, he's not as good as he was. So for me, we should not, no one wants to humiliate David De Gea, and that is why we are into this situation. I don't think it has happened. I don't remember when it could have happened. If it did, maybe it was before I followed the football closely, that the team, a team, at the season ends, they submit a final list of retained players, and a player is not in that list, but his contract is ending at the end of the month, and there is no decision about him. Then, you know, they have submitted the list, his contract is about to end, and they are going back and forth with contract talks and negotiations. Usually these talks start with a year or two left on your contract. In fact, if they start with a year left on your contract, that's already too late. It shows they are maybe not so excited about you anymore. So the year should have seen the signs, and for me, I feel like he has been respected. Even the way they are handling the situation now is respectful to him, because I mean, they are taking their time and they are hoping, they are giving him the time to think about it. For me, I don't think he's been disrespect. No one wants him out. If he's willing to take the terms and stay as not a guaranteed number one, they bring another goalkeeper. I think he doesn't like the idea of losing his position in Spain, but also start being at the verge of losing it with Manchester United. He's sort of me when you stay, and that's the problem with staying for so long. When you stay in a role for so long, you somehow become entitled. So when the time reaches and reality checks in, and you've got to relinquish that position, it becomes difficult because you somehow feel entitled. I think it's nature. It's a natural thing that. But for me, I don't think, Frank, that anyone wants to disrespect De Gea. I wouldn't. I've not been here talking bad about De Gea. Never mind his not being able to play the ball on his man. He has saved that a million times. He will make one error, but save us 10 times. But of course, at times the error would be, game changing and, title changing and all. But De Gea is a legend of the club in every right, and he is going to be respected. We want him respected. He is being respected, but he has got to cut down on the terms. If we need to meet somewhere. We need to meet halfway. He needs to get that. Omo Moses saying, but what is the hot news right now? Well, the hot news is that Marcus Rashford is going to become the highest paid player at Manchester United, earning £375,000 per week. That's the same amount of money that David De Gea has been earning, or he is earning, at least until the end of his contract on the 30th of June. That's hot. The hot news is that Manchester United are taking back a bid for Mason Mount. There is hope now that it will be accepted. The hot news is that the announcement of Sheikh Jassim as the new owner of Manchester United is imminent. Imminent? How imminent? Now that should be the question. We might not know, but it will be imminent because reports still keep pointing at Sheikh Jassim as being in a cruising lead in terms of this quest to own Manchester United. So again, interesting hot news that are coming through from the club. Hot news is that Andre Onana has caught the eye of Erik Ten Hag, that it seems Erik Ten Hag is interested in Andre Onana. Remember, Ten Hag lost the trust in David De Gea and him being the number one first choice goalkeeper for United. So Onana is emerging now. Yesterday it was Jordan Pickford. Pickford apparently came out and rebuffed these rumors, saying he has not been contacted and all. But hot news is that Onana is now emerging as one player United is interested in. Hot news as well is that Jean-Claire Todibo from Nice, the defender. Todibo, if you haven't seen him, I can get a picture for you. His photo here. He's one of the other players United are looking at. He plays for Nice and he's valued at 33 million euros. He's a defender, a centre-back who can also play as a right-back, and he's a former Barcelona player. In fact, Barcelona has still got attachments to him, whereas he was sold to Nice for 8.5 million euros and an extra 7 million euros in terms of other variables. He's still a player from whom Barcelona would get some money if he was bought by a club like Manchester United. So Barcelona have got some rights over him still, according to the contract, of course, he signed when he was being sold to Nice. So that's the other player that United are looking at. Again, you did ask about the hot news concerning Manchester United. So that's among the hottest developments coming through. But for this particular live, I was so intent on talking about the Glazers and how much they have ruined this beautiful club of ours, and how much more they will be willing to ruin it. Well, they have ruined it. We have guys in positions who don't know what to do. We've got the right coach who has identified the right players, but the people who should be doing the work now are failing him. That is why we have failed to sign Kim Min-jae. He's headed to Bayern 90% according to Fabrizio, but also other reports suggest that it's almost 90% done. He's going to be headed to Bayern. Painful to listen to, but would you blame him? If you were Kim Min-jae, would you choose a Manchester United club that has got a football director who is clueless, a football director who spent time trying to sign Marko Arnautovic and Frank de Jong for a long time in a summer? Would you trust such a club, or you trust a traditional club like Bayern that has a clear direction and a clear, you know, a plan or project going on? It is also reported, Oumo, that Hoyland is attracting the attention of Bayern Munich, and we do not have any reason to refute these rumors, because Bayern Munich has been so intentional on disorganizing the transfers of all other players. Remember, whereas most clubs in England are fighting against each other, that Arsenal are recruiting to beat Man City, and the other teams, chasing top for Man United and all. For Bayern Munich, they are not recruiting to beat Borussia Dortmund or which any other team, Frankfurt or Schalke or and all these nobodies in the Bundesliga, because I think the Bundesliga season in, season out is theirs to lose. They are competing against Arsenal, against Manchester United, against Manchester City, because Europe is where their ultimate test is, because at home they will almost always be guaranteed to play in the Champions League. So that's why when you hear any rumor concerning Bayern being linked to a player that a club in the Premier League is interested in, don't take it lightly. They actually do. They almost wanted to scoop Declan Rice from Arsenal. Lucky enough, Arsenal had made fast moves, and I think they were too deep in terms of agreements with the player, and they had excited him, probably because they have the right people in Edu and all the people Ateta works with to sign players. They wanted, they of course Kim Min-jae, you've seen they have beaten us for Kim Min-jae. Yet they came in late, but Kim Min-jae's contract, his release clause triggers on the 1st of July. So when his contract ends on the 30th, the 1st of July is the date United can be able to come and move fast. But if United doesn't do something major in these few days, I think he's gone. So that's why we say he's more than 90% done joining Bayern. So again, it's a difficult situation for Manchester United. But again, if we knew we had the right people handling this period, this transfer period, there would be hope that maybe something could happen, a miracle would happen, and Kim Min-jae. Because for me, I think he would be the most painful loss for Manchester United in terms of these players we've been linked to. I think Kim Min-jae would just come in right there and solve half of our defensive problems, I think, by and large. I think he would. The way Yapstam came in and solved stuff back in '98 before the season we won the treble, I think Kim Min-jae would come in and just suit the back line and solve these Maguire issues and all. But here we are, because of lack of the right people to negotiate and also lack of decisions. We are here. We are losing Kim Min-jae. We lost out on Declan Rice, who was a player who perfectly Ten Hag felt fits into his style. We are almost, perhaps we gave up on Harry Kane. We can't even think about Kylian Mbappe. We don't have that money. Victor Osimhen's valuation is way too high. It's a proper no for Napoli. Yet PSG is interested. So we have no competitive advantage anymore. The only competitive advantage we would have as Man United, at least if it's not the money, it would be the history and the pedigree. But even that now is being watered down by the situation we are in, by the lack of clarity in everything we are doing. So everything is just watering down. And again, that is why I say the Glazers have ruined everything at Manchester United. They have ruined everything now. We need Sheikh Jassim, as early as yesterday, to give us a proper restart. And that is what we are hoping for. So for me, that's where we are. It's a sad place, but again, it's a good place, I think, on the other side, because again, this experience we go in, I think, is preparing us for the good times to come. We've seen clubs, and I'm not trying to say I don't see Manchester United going down the way the likes of Leeds United, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, Blackburn Rovers. These are clubs that won the Premier League. Of course, not for a long, not 20 titles like United have, uh, you know, but they have won big major titles before, and they were big clubs before. But they disappeared in ether. So there is no entitlement. More so, if you don't realize that the cheese has moved and you move with the cheese, you can actually go down the drain. So United, if the Glazers, by any chance, that's why I say there is no logical way the Glazers should be staying at Manchester United. The longer they stay, the deeper the United project sinks. Yet the other clubs are going up so fast. Man City is going up so fast. Not Newcastle United is now coming in. Chelsea are looking to stabilize their ship. Tottenham Hotspurs, of course, okay, that one is no threat, but they will always be there. They will always be there around as the other team that is try to knock onto the table of men and stuff. So they are spoilers. They can always come in and spoil it for you. So Liverpool, of course, they are silent, but Liverpool are doing their business without pressure. And by the way, speaking of Liverpool, shows you again whatever we lack, Liverpool has in terms of negotiation. You look how on earth, and United was interested in, should have been interested in McAllister from way back. How on earth does Liverpool sign McAllister for 35 million, a World Cup winner? I mean, how on earth does Liverpool snatch McAllister just like that, silently going about their business? But because they have a proper direction and proper people handling these transfers. So the whole problem at United, if you look at what's going on with other clubs we are competing with, it becomes worrying, and that's why you pray. And I understand when Oumo, I think it was Oumo, it's Madiak Dak from South Sudan, who says he's feeling like giving up on Manchester United, because, and I would understand when you feel like that, because when you see what's going on with all the other clubs, you get the pressure, you get disappointed, you get, there is a bad feeling you will get because of the lack of direction in the project, yet other clubs seem to be progressing. Arsenal was the laughing stock, I think, in football, whereas they kept competitive. They were never, they were there. They had no money to spend. You see the invisible backline, the defense that won the Arsenal that famous invisible title that they keep bragging about forever, was worth less than 5 million euros. Can you imagine? I think it had Campbell, Cole, who else? You can remind me, guys. For Maya, I think Lauren Maya. It was put together for less than 5 million euros. So you can see how Arsenal was a patched up club somehow. But right now they are coming and trying bidding for players worth 120 million pounds. So and then for us United, we cannot sign a Kim Minje whose buyout clause is 45 million euros. How insane! How insane! It's shameful. It's a shaming. So that's where we are. Frank Stylion is saying after all, Ten Hag might resign because he was wished that money will be there. He was promised that money will be there. And you see again, and that's the worst, by the way. And at the very worst, by the way, because Ten Hag right now, by the way, is a manager we should be. United needs Ten Hag more than Ten Hag needs United. Ten Hag has proven to the world that he's a good manager. He came in after so many high-profile managers failed, from Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho. I don't know whether David Moyes is a high-profile manager, depending on how you look at it. But from David Moyes, who else was at United? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, not really a high-profile manager, but he's a legend of the club. So Ten Hag came in when all other managers had failed, and he has in 12 months changed Manchester United completely, and you can properly see that this man can take Manchester United to utopia, back to the top. Now certainly the other clubs are watching. Clubs like PSG are struggling to get managers who can win them Champions League titles. They are wobbling all over the place. Now I think they have settled for Luis Enrique. Real Madrid will soon be in the market looking for a coach, because they are losing Carlo Ancelotti, who is going to coach Brazil. Clubs like Napoli, they won the Serie A. Of course, now they got, of course, Rudy Garcia comes in to replace Luciano Spalletti. There are so many options of clubs. Juventus are struggling. They always keep going back to the same manager. that is Maximilian Allegri, but maybe he lost his mojo even. So Ten Hag is not desperate. He has proven to the world that he's a good tactician. And if he came out and resigned today, he's not even a poor kid, by the way, in case you don't know. His family, he comes from a decent family in Netherlands, a rich family actually, not just decent, in the Netherlands. So he's not a desperate guy to coach Manchester United. So if the frustrations continue, working with the wrong people and what have you, the Glazers don't make decisions, yes, it's possible that he can be frustrated out of the job. And after 12 months, he can resign. Yes, managers resign. We've seen perhaps more desperate managers resign from jobs. So he can resign. It can happen. And trust you me, the moment Ten Hag resigns, he will have more than 20 high-profile teams running to him. He can go to Saudi Arabia and make billions of money there. So he's, again, and Frank, whereas we don't wish for that to happen, I don't think we are at that level yet. But again, the Glazers, who have ruined everything for Manchester United, can get us to that level. Frank Stallion saying after all, Ten Hag might resign because he was wished there was money will be there, and it seems there is no clarity on whether the money will be there or not. So it's again a tight situation. So whatever is happening to Manchester United, we do not know whom it might affect. It's already a turn-off for players. Players who were excited by United are now saying, I would rather go to Bayern. Think about it. Which player, a young player like from South Korea, a young player like Kim Min-jae, choosing Bayern Munich over Manchester United? How? Think about it. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't happen. But if such young players can reach that point of saying, you know what, let me go to Bayern Munich over Manchester United, it shows you that, well, this is a project people can lose trust in. And that can only happen if the Glazers keep dragging on with the sale, but also if United is, the people handling transfers prove to the players that they actually are incompetent at their job. So that's how terrible. How terrible the situation you're in is at. So that's how bad it is for Manchester United right now. So again, guys, let's just watch this space. But yeah, that is where Manchester United is at. That's how terrible everything going on at the club is, and that's how well, we are losing out on players because of the greedy Glazers, and of course because of everything wrong happening at the club. And this has not just happened, it has been around for quite some time. As we speak, it is England 5, North Macedonia 0. Well, England are being England. They keep doing this. They keep obliterating teams like Montenegro during qualifications, North Macedonia and all. But when it comes to the real competitions, they are given a proper run for their money. But as it is now, 55th minute, England is leading North Macedonia by 5 goals to nothing. Marcus Rashford, the United player, has scored 1. Of course, Bukayo Saka has now bagged a hat-trick as it is now. But yeah, that's where we are. I predicted that this game would end with more goals scored in the second half. For those who love to bet and place a stake, I do think you're still on track. I'm expecting at least all we need to see is 2 more goals scored in the second half, because 2 have been scored. 3 were scored in the first half. 2 have been scored in the second half. I believe more will be scored. And I think it will end like 7 or 8 or 8-0 or 8-1 or something. But England is taking North Macedonia to footballing school at the dilapidated Old Trafford that the Glazers have failed to renovate for the entire existence of their reign as the owners of the club. Wow, what a bunch of unbothered owners we have at the helm of our club. So that's where we are, guys. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, for being on. Thank you, guys. I do remind you to subscribe to the channel. We do got to understand the situation of Man United. We'll be back here live again tomorrow at the same time. Like I said, from Monday to Thursday we are live at exactly 22 hours, but on Friday, Saturday and Sunday it's an hour before. That's at 21 hours. That's 9 p.m. So guys, always make it a date with us. But also we keep dropping some videos as the news keeps coming. We keep giving it it to you. Also breaking stories and breaking news that keeps coming. The earlier one we had was that exclusive with Fabrizio Romano, exclusively talking about Manchester United. I broke it down for you as I said it. For those who missed it, the video is there. When you go in the live section, you should be able to see it. But from wherever you are, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. We are on a journey to 2,000 subscribers. Guys, we can do this. Let's do this together. Let's grow this community of Manchester United supporters. And every day, guys, don't leave me hanging here. Come through. Let's talk about Manchester United, and let's keep trying to push each other as we do try to persevere through this very trying time. It's a trying period we are in, but together we can make it through it. And trust you me, at the end of it, this badge, this one, will be right on top. We'll be back to the top where we belong. Manchester City can have their moment. Well, they have bought their way into everything. The game has changed, but trust you me, in Sheikh Jassim we trust, and sooner rather than later he will be confirmed as the owner of Manchester United, and it will be a new time for us as lovers of this big, huge, massive club, Manchester United. It's been an honor, a pleasure, a blessing for me to be here talking to you. Everyone who has been dropping those comments, Frank Stallion, thank you. Oumo Moses, thank you. Madiak Dak, thank you. Senoga Ramzan, thank you. Everyone, of course, and all the other people who keep coming through, the people from, of course, all over the globe, in the UK, in Kampala, in Nairobi, in Tanzania, in Kingston. There is a gentleman from Toronto, but he's from Jamaica originally. Thank you all, guys, who keep coming through. But let's grow this community of Manchester United together as we keep enjoying and loving on our beautiful club. It's a terrible time, a difficult time we are in today, but trust you me, it is one time we can go through. We will go through if we keep together as one, and that is by subscribing to the hotspot. To wrap it up, for those who are just joining, the hot news today was Marcus Rashford said to become the highest paid player at Manchester United, to earn £375,000 per week. Also, Erik Ten Hag seems to be interested in Andre Onana, the goalkeeper. Also, David De Gea has come out to say he wants to start the club. It is the club that is delaying the decision, and his contract talks are being stalled because of the club. For him, on his side, he's clear on what he wants. He wants to start the club. I think he's just shifting the blame to the club, but he just doesn't want to accept the terms the club is giving him. Also, the situation, the uncertainty with the takeover, which will be sorted sooner rather than later, is also costing Man United players, but blame it on only two people, Avram and the other Glazer. So it's well, that's the bit of the situation concerning United. United is also linked to a defender from Nice, that is Jean-Claire Todibo. He's a French international. He's 23 years of age. He's a good ball player, good dribble of the ball. He's good on the ball. He's powerful. He's energetic. He was number 3 in terms of dribbling last season in the French League One. So he's a good player. For me, I have no doubt that if we got him, that is if the guys handling the transfers do their job right, and we got him, I think he would be a good addition. He's a modern defender. He's a modern centre back who can also play as a right back, and that's a key ingredient that Erik Ten Hag has always wanted in any new players he brings on in the terms of that centre back role. He should be able to play at least 2 positions, as a right back but also as a central defender, just like Luke Shaw can play as a central defender and as a left back. I think he's trying to get that balance in terms of, but also get that that depth in his squad, but cheaply. You know, that's depth with one player. If you have one player who can play 2 positions, that's depth in your squad, but with one player. So it solves 2 problems for you, and I think it's a good thing. But like I said, Ten Hag seems to be the right gaffer for the club, but the people around him are frustrating him and frustrating his plans. So right now, we seem to be rationed to plan B or plan C. Who knows, maybe we'll go down to plan D. The beauty is, the Ten Hag being the smart strategist he is, he has had a plan for all levels. I think he had his contingency plan set aside. But do we want to go for the contingency plan, or do we want to go for plan A if we are going to compete with Manchester City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Tottenham and Chelsea and all the other teams that are emerging, Brighton and what have you? We certainly want to go for plan A, but let's wait and see how the situation goes. My name is Webb. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the hotspot, and of course, let's keep talking about Manchester United. Chat later, guys. Bye bye.